Did you catch Kamala Harris Thursday night in Las Vegas at the Univision Town Hall? Well, if you didn't, allow me to tell you what you missed. You may have missed an example of why Kamala Harris is one of the most, if not the most, scripted presidential candidate in the history of the United States of America. Now, why do I say that? Because thanks to a good camera angle, we saw that Kamala Harris was reading directly from a teleprompter. Take a look at this. It's glorious.
Victim of crime, are you a Republican? Are you a Democrat? The only question I ever ask is, are you okay? And sadly, we have seen over the last 2 weeks since Hurricane Helene.
Now, before I move on to a bigger and I believe more important point, I want to say that I don't have a problem with a political candidate or a politician using a teleprompter in and of itself. But when they're reading from it, that makes me think that they don't have any ideas in their head, that they can't operate on the fly, that they really don't know what it is that they're trying to communicate. Now, when I'm talking to you guys, I'm not looking at anything. I'm just sitting out here looking at my phone, speaking directly into my phone, because I've already thought about what I wanted to talk to you about. But I don't have a problem with someone using a teleprompter to keep them on topic, say. What I do have a problem with is when they read from it, because that tells me they're not very bright, they're not very articulate, and as I said, they probably don't even know what they really want to say, or at worst, they're being fed lines. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to think about these things, and that seems to be the case here. Now, moving on, something I found interesting was that there was a person in the audience by the name of Mario, I believe, who highlighted the fact that he is an undecided voter and he's thinking about voting for Donald Trump. But he highlighted the fact that he didn't like that Kamala Harris was effectively installed and that Joe Biden was sort of pushed away, that she didn't go through any sort of democratic process like the conventions where they are nominated to be the nominee, where they are elected by their electors. But that didn't happen with Kamala. Joe Biden just sort of stepped aside and endorsed her, and we're expected to say, well, that's it. Well, Mario called that out, God bless him. Take a look at this.
Estoy encantado de conocerla.
I'm pleased to meet
Muy buenas
you.
noches.
Good evening.
Yo
I am registered as an independent voter.
En el pasado he votado
In the past,
por el Partido Demócrata.
I have voted for
Por el Partido
the Democrats
Republicano.
as well as the Republican Party.
Hoy en día estoy indeciso.
Nowadays, I'm undecided and a bit confused.
I voted Democrat and Republican, but I'm confused right now.
Yeah.
He visto que, por ejemplo,
I have seen that,
usted
for
se ganó
instance,
la candidatura
you earn your
sin,
candidacy without
proceso que normalmente
going
se
through
usa,
the normal
porque
process.
las primarias,
That is primary elections or through a
llamó mucho la
caucus.
atención.
That really caught my
Became a
attention.
candidate without going through the primaries or a caucus, like it usually happens.
Eso me inclinó un poco para el lado de
That
Trump,
sort of
aunque
inclined
todavía
me
estoy indeciso.
to vote for Trump. However, I'm still undecided.
También me impactó y
Also
fue
impacted
algo
me, and it
muy
was
diferente,
something
cómo
quite
el
different.
presidente Biden,
How President
totalmente
Biden
destituido,
was
me
completely
pareció algo sin precedentes.
destituted. It seemed something
Y-
unprecedented.
Sí.
A poco tiempo de las elecciones.
And so close to the
I'm
elections.
right now leaning towards Trump, but I haven't made a decision. I'm also concerned about the way I feel President Biden was pushed aside.
Oh.
Y a poco tiempo de las elecciones.
And so close to
Parece
the
que es una
elections,
circunstancia
I believe
extraordinaria.
these are
I think it's
extraordinary
extraordinary
circumstances.
given how close we are to the election. So, la pregunta, Mario?
And Mario's question?
The question, Mario.
La pregunta es,
So
¿cómo
the
nos
question
puede
is,
aclarar
how can
todo
you
esto,
clarify
todo
this
proceso,
whole
y cómo
process
fue usted elegida?
and how you were
Process and
elected?
how you
Sure,
got the
and-
candidacy.
First of all, thank you for being so candid and allowing me to answer the question. Thank you. President Biden made a decision that I think history will show was probably one of the most courageous that a president could make, which is he decided to put country above his personal interest. And he made that decision. He within that same period of time, supported my candidacy and urged me to run. He and I have been partners for the last 4 years as his vice president, to him as the president. And I am honored to have earned the Democratic nomination. I am honored to have the endorsement of people from every walk of life. You will probably find that I probably have a bigger coalition of people who couldn't seem to be more different than each other, who have come together around my candidacy. From 200 Republicans who worked with and for both Presidents Bush, John McCain, Mitt Romney, including Liz Cheney, the former Congresswoman, and her father, the former Vice President, Dick Cheney, who was supporting me. Former members, very esteemed members, including generals of the national security community. I have the endorsement and support of Alberto Gonzalez most recently, who of course was Attorney General. I have the support of people from every background, and I believe this is the reason why. It is incredibly important, and I know you and I can see you are a patriot, that we have the President of the United States who honors the oath that they take to support the Constitution of the United States. There is a huge contrast in this election. Donald Trump has said he will be a dictator on day one. Many people come from backgrounds and countries of origin, and we know what that means when you're talking about someone who wants to be president of the United States and wants to be a dictator, and what that means in terms of taking freedoms from their people. Donald Trump has said he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. I urge you to look at Project 2025, and you will see he will strip the Department of Justice of its independence and put in and hire across the board, instead of career public servants, his people who are his loyalists. Donald Trump said he would, and I'm using a quotation, terminate the Constitution of the United States. Imagine the Constitution of the United States, which guarantees the Fourth Amendment against unreasonable search and seizure by a government on you, the Fifth Amendment, the Sixth Amendment. So I believe that the stakes right now are extraordinarily high, and potentially, some might say, historians have said, unprecedented. And so maybe the whole situation, including your point, is a bit unprecedented. But this is an unusual time where we are literally having a choice as the American people about choosing a path, either that is about rule of law, democracy, or something that is about admiring dictators and autocracy. Did you see?
It's worth repeating that Joe Biden did not step down because he was doing the brave and heroic thing for his country. He stepped down and officially endowed Kamala Harris to be the Democratic nominee, not by going through the electoral process, but because he was forced out. Because it didn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that with Joe Biden, the lights are on, but nobody's home. And Donald Trump easily took him to the cleaners during the debate performance that they had. Now, I've told you before, I'm surprised that they were able to hide it for so long, because his mental state has been so bad. The man has claimed that he's talked to dead people, so I'm surprised that they didn't force him out long before now. But that is why Kamala Harris is the Democratic nominee. They effectively installed her. And I find it funny, my friends, that the party that claims to care so much about democracy and claims that Donald Trump is a dictator and that he wants to abolish the Constitution is the party that didn't go through the democratic process to have their nominee. They are the party that has tried to throw their opponent in jail through a sham of a trial. And he gets acquitted of multiple charges that have been thrown against him by the day, it seems like at times. So, which party does it sound like to you is not pro-democracy? Those are the actions of a dictator. Mind you, this is the same woman who said that she wants to weaponize the Department of Justice to go after people who spread hate speech and misinformation online. I did a video on that. I'll post a link to it in the description if you'd like to see it. But in fact, we wouldn't even have to wait for a potential Kamala Harris administration to see what she's doing. The Department of Justice under Biden and all these three-letter agencies went after Bobby Kennedy simply for saying that the COVID lockdowns and the COVID vaccine were not necessary and trying to advocate for alternatives. What have they done? They silenced him. And so, mind you, take someone at their word, as I've told you, and I find it funny that the same people who claim to care about democracy so much are the same ones who want to gaslight you and tell you that Donald Trump would be the dictator. Donald Trump isn't threatening to confiscate your guns, which Kamala Harris has done. Kamala Harris said that she wants to, by executive order, orchestrate some sort of Australia-style gun buyback program. That is the actions of a dictator. Not someone who wants to dismantle bureaucracy and take a look at these three-letter agencies, these unconstitutional agencies that, mind you, shouldn't have existed in the first place, but are more than willing to abuse their powers, as we've seen. Donald Trump never said he wanted to abolish the Constitution. In fact, I believe that a second term of Donald Trump may be more promising than the first. He may be re-examining the actual effectiveness and constitutionality, mind you, which they have no constitutional standing, but the constitutional standing of these three-letter agencies and stripping them away. That's giving more power to the people. What does it sound like to you? She said the choice is clear. I do believe the choice is clear. But when you have someone who threatens to weaponize unconstitutional agencies to go after your First Amendment, your Fourth Amendment, your Second Amendment, and your Fifth Amendment, potentially, I believe the choice is clear. That Kamala Harris is the one that seems to act like a dictator. And as I said, if someone is making those threats, we ought to take them seriously. Don't believe the hype. Don't let the Democratic Party gaslight you. What they seem to be accusing Donald Trump of wanting to do is exactly what they're doing. And we cannot let them get away with this. While I'm on the topic of restoring power to the people, it has been my firm conviction and belief that a free press is valuable. It is one of the most valuable tools to ensure that we have a free and a prosperous republic. But there are many people within our government and within the big tech industry who do not like little guys like me who advocate for limited government and the ideas that made this country great. In fact, It has been within this election year that I have noticed people at YouTube starting to censor my content. I doubt that many of my subscribers are even seeing my content on a regular basis. They've taken away my ability to make shorts twice, which is disastrous for little channels like me, because making short content helps me to grow because it hits a different algorithm. And it seems to me that my content is getting not nearly as many views as it should, given the amount of subscribers that I have. So that tells me one thing: it's not showing up in your feed. But if you are subscribed to my channel, you should be seeing my content in your feed. That is, if YouTube is working the way that it should be. So do me a favor, share this message, because I want to reach as many people as possible. I really believe in the ideas of America, and I believe that if given the right information, that the American people know what is the right choice and will make it. So if you share this video and help get this video out to as many people as possible, and like it because it helps the algorithm, it will help to grow my channel. So please be sure to like, share, and subscribe.